We are all incredibly fired up for the preseason to finally start. But this latest news out of training camp makes me very nervous. Anyone watching the offense on the lakefront can see a highly dangerous trend developing during competitive drills. Our guys are simply turning the ball over way too much, and management is struggling to explain why it keeps happening under center. Please drop a quick like, comment your thoughts below, and subscribe to join our loyal fan base. Deshaun Watson, Shedeur Sanders, and Dillon Gabriel have combined for 19 interceptions during Cleveland Browns training camp practices, creating a mounting crisis for our coaching staff. Watson arrived here under the weight of a massive contract and enormous expectations, specifically tasked with finally stabilizing the quarterback position after years of instability. It is frankly exhausting to watch nearly 20 turnovers occur in just a few short weeks of preparation. According to unofficial data provided by ESPN Cleveland, Watson is responsible for 9 of those picks, while Sanders has 4 and Gabriel 6. That discrepancy feels especially glaring when we look at the internal numbers. What makes this even bigger is that quarterback coach Mike Bajakian publicly called 17 of these interceptions an incredible number without identifying a clear solution. Is it poor timing or just bad decision-making? Head coach Todd Monken previously labeled a 7-on-7 session as embarrassing, and seeing these errors persist despite his public frustration is difficult to stomach. When you consider that a $230 million investment is currently fueling a significant portion of these giveaways, the anxiety around this city feels entirely earned. If the coaching staff is still analyzing every single rep to determine what went wrong, does that imply the progress we were promised is stalling in front of our eyes? ESPN Cleveland notes that Shedeur Sanders maintains a 69.4% completion rate compared to the others, which really forces us to ask if the spacing issues cited by coaches are hitting everyone equally, or if we are simply watching our primary signal caller struggle to adapt. We are just hours away from the preseason, yet the path forward remains incredibly murky. Can this staff really afford to continue this experiment if the ball is consistently being handed over to the defense? How did we arrive at a point where 19 giveaways occurred before we even played a real exhibition game? This isn't just about bad luck. It stems from a combination of aggressive experimentation and, frankly, a lack of rhythm that has left everyone on the practice field scrambling. While the front office committed a massive $230 million to stabilize our future, witnessing this much chaos in our offensive timing is unsettling for those of us who have followed this team through every rebuild. You have to wonder, did the leadership truly expect such a disjointed start when they finalized these personnel decisions months ago? Watching these guys struggle feels like a sudden departure from the progress we were promised. And that changes everything regarding how we view the depth chart heading into the preseason. Behind closed doors, the staff is surely feeling the immense pressure of balancing public optics with the grim reality of those interception totals. They have to determine if these are fixable spacing issues or if the decision-making gaps are deeper than we realized. When looking at the data from ESPN Cleveland, the performance divide remains a massive point of concern for any supporter hoping for stability. Shedeur Sanders is currently hitting on 69.4% of his attempts, which makes the inconsistency of his peers look even more erratic. Why does there appear to be such a stark divide in production when the environment remains the same for everyone? If the goal of camp is to iron out these mistakes, then why are these repetitions still leading to such high-frequency errors? We are just hours away from seeing if this is just a practice nightmare or a recurring trend. Can this staff really afford to continue this experiment if the ball is consistently being given away? Transitioning from the raw data to the actual consequences is vital, as the current state of our quarterback room demands immediate scrutiny regarding how we approach the coming months. And the more I look at this, the reality sets in that our path to January is being jeopardized by these repeated errors. The sheer volatility introduced by 19 intercepted passes during camp creates a logistical nightmare for a coaching staff trying to establish a definitive pecking order before the first preseason kickoff. When we talk about stakes, we are looking at a fundamental erosion of trust in the offensive system itself. How can the front office justify such a high degree of instability when every snap is meant to build cohesion? If these giveaways remain a hallmark of our performance, the depth chart will remain in flux, forcing the coaches to rely on desperate, short-term solutions rather than a cohesive game plan. This level of turnover essentially nullifies our ability to effectively challenge division rivals who are currently building stability, not dismantling it. Should these struggles leak into the regular season, our playoff ambitions will quickly evaporate against teams that value ball security above raw volume of attempts. It feels as if we are back at square one, questioning whether the talent on the field is being set up for success, or if the scheme is simply too complex for the current roster to execute without disaster. If the primary signal caller cannot protect the football, does the entire strategy of this campaign hold any weight? We are left wondering if this is the start of a long, painful slide toward another rebuild, or if there is a way to stop the bleeding before the games actually count. Prioritizing raw potential during these practices offers a distinct upside, as the coaching staff explores how Deshaun Watson, Shedeur Sanders, and Dillon Gabriel handle high-pressure scenarios before the actual games begin. If we assume these reps are designed to push boundaries, then the aggressive approach might reveal hidden chemistry that simplifies our offensive identity under pressure. And I cannot stress this enough, the downside remains glaringly obvious when 19 interceptions hit the ground during short camp stretches. Does this trend suggest our decision-making is fundamentally broken, or is the defense simply playing well ahead of its current schedule? Analysts across the league are starting to pay attention, questioning if the coaching staff is relying on too many moving parts at the most important position on the field. While some suggest this is merely the growing pains of a new system, others fear the lack of continuity could haunt us well into the regular season. My honest take here is that while experimentation is necessary, the volume of giveaways is simply unsustainable for a team with playoff aspirations. Watching these three signal callers struggle with spacing while trying to find a rhythm feels like we are losing time rather than gaining wisdom. If the staff cannot identify the root cause behind these interceptions, are we really prepared for the intensity of a real stadium environment? What I really think is that we are witnessing a genuine identity crisis disguised as technical evaluation, and that worries me more than a few bad passes ever could. We need consistency to build any momentum, yet the current turnover frequency suggests we are stuck in a cycle of trial and error that keeps the defense far too comfortable. Can we really expect a different outcome when the preseason finally begins next week? When you weigh these practice results against our long-term goals, the path forward for this franchise demands real reflection on whether the current approach to our signal callers is truly sustainable. Think about it this way. 18 interceptions are simply too many for any serious playoff contender to absorb without consequences, and the fact that 9 of those turnovers belong to a $230 million investment forces us to wonder if our offensive ceiling is lower than we were led to believe. Fans have every right to feel anxious because we have endured enough cycles of rebuilds to recognize when a rhythm is missing. Watching the ball change hands nearly 20 times in just a few short weeks is jarring for anyone who wants to see stability under center. If the staff is still analyzing every single rep to figure out why this is happening, we might be facing a long, difficult season. Shedeur Sanders is currently hitting on 69.4% of his attempts, which makes the inconsistency of